Welcome to episode 4 of Flat Earth Strawman. A strawman is an intentionally misrepresented form of an argument which is substituted for the actual argument because it's easier to defeat. Taking this approach is a fallacy called attacking a strawman. I will be doing the opposite, exposing the strawman to reveal how it differs critically from the real argument, and then providing support for the real argument. Another definition of strawman is a person regarded as having no substance or integrity. So the title of this series serves two purposes, as it highlights how little substance there is to the Flat Earth movement and the unprincipled charlatans who propagate it with dishonest tactics. Today we look at D. Marble and a recent video of his on the moon. He expresses doubts about the mainstream explanation of why we only see one side, and he explains why the famous Earthrise photo from Apollo 11 is suspicious. A link to his video is below, but I will play the relevant parts of the 17 minutes here. We start 30 seconds in.
December. I got this video December 12th, I believe it was. So, about the moon, they tell us that it's 239,000 miles away or so, that the moon is 4 times smaller than the planet Earth, according to the heliocentric model. But one
Okay, so he's more or less right. It's about a quarter of the size, not exactly. It's between a third and a quarter. But he says they tell us. Has he ever attempted to verify the purported distance to the moon? If so, what method did he use and what distance did he arrive at? If not, what evidence does he have for its distance being something other than about 240,000 miles?
thing that I find odd about the moon is that you can zoom in and get so much detail using a Nikon P900 or P1000. Mine's a Nikon P900, and that's how I was able to get in and capture this much detail looking at the moon where it's supposed to be 238,000 miles away.
Well, the moon is about 2,160 miles wide, and so the features we can see with cameras and telescopes are very large.
I find that to be a little odd because about the tree line was only like 2 miles, 2.5 a trip meter down to the end of the road. I recorded a tree line, and I zoomed in on that tree line. That tree line was only like 2 miles, 2.5 miles away. And I zoomed in on it, and there was so much atmospheric distortion to a point where I couldn't get as much detail. So then what happened? I took the camera and I zoomed in on the moon. The moon just happened to be in the sky at the same time, so I tilt the camera upward and zoom in on the moon, and I could get better detail on the moon than I could on a tree line that was 2.5 miles away. So I found that to be a little odd. Another thing.
Okay, so he admits one reason he couldn't get the same level of detail on the trees as he could on the moon was because of the atmospheric distortion. When you're looking straight across the surface of the Earth, you are looking through the thickest and often the most turbulent part of Earth's atmosphere. You could have similar problems observing celestial bodies near the horizon. Try getting this degree of detail on a moon that's just rising. Another reason Darrell might not have been able to get the same detail on the trees is that his camera is not a microscope. It is not designed to focus on tiny things. It can focus on small things at close range, but focusing on tiny things, especially from a distance, is not what his camera is designed to do. On to the next thing he finds odd or curious about the moon.
Well, I got to pause here that I find to be a little fascinating about the moon, actually, is that you can zoom in, get all this detail right here. You see the different shadows and the craters and all that. But then when you back up, you lose the detail, and at this point, it just turns into another light in the sky. So I thought that was pretty cool. Just wanted to.
Okay. This is one example of Darrell Marble making such a ludicrous claim that I find it hard to take him seriously. What he describes here is entirely an artifact of his camera's exposure settings and light sensitivity. The moon does not just look like a light in the sky to the naked eye. You can see some details on the moon with your naked eye. It doesn't look like this bright glowing object, featureless. What he sees through the camera when zoomed out does not accurately depict what his own eye can see. Okay, this is either bald ignorance or blatant disingenuity.
Point that out. Okay, so let's move on. But why do we only see one side of the moon? That's what we're going to explore here real quick. And the answer is tidal locking, according to the globe model. And this is an article from phys.org, because, the globe model is all about physics. You got to understand physics if you want to understand the globe model, or how to debunk the globe model, for sure. At least that's what they tell you.
The disdain with which D. Marble talks about physics and the globe model makes me wonder how competent in physics he is. But he's also setting himself up that he's going to debunk the globe model, not really with physics. That's the approach he's going to take. We're going to see if he's successful or not.
So it says just here, what's tidal locking? The moon is tidally locked to the Earth, which means that it always shows one face to our planet. In fact, this is the case for most of the large moons in the solar system. What's the process going on to make this happen? And the short answer basically is gravity. But no, that's not it. Here's another explanation for it.
The short answer is gravity. Yes, that is. But then he says, no, that's not it. Here's another explanation for it. Okay. I'm about to cut D-Marble some slack, and you'll see why in a moment.
Tidal locking is the phenomenon by which a body has the same rotational period as its orbital period around a partner.
That's fine. This first sentence is fine.
So the moon is tidally locked to the Earth because it rotates in exactly the same time as it takes to orbit the Earth.
Okay, I'm going to have to give D-Marble a pass here. The second sentence uses the word because in a potentially misleading manner. When you say X because of Y, you are generally assigning Y as the cause of X. But rotating in exactly the same time it takes to orbit isn't the cause of tidal locking, it's the effect. So he says this is a coincidence, but it's not. The moon doesn't just happen to orbit in the same amount of time it takes to rotate on its axis. It does this because it's tidally locked. It does this because of gravity and the effects of gravity over millions of years.
Now, that's another one of those coincidences in this whole globe model. And we got a whole bunch of them. Like the sun and the moon just happen to look the same size. And when an eclipse occurs, it just happens to take place where the moon is perfectly aligned in front of the sun, although the sun is 93 million miles away and the moon's only 238,000 miles away. But they just look like they're the same size. The sun is 400 times larger than the Earth. The moon is 4 times smaller than the Earth. So it just happens to work out that way.
Okay. Many flat earthers jump on the coincidence conspiracy bandwagon when talking about eclipses. The sun and the moon look nearly the same size, and the moon's orbit occasionally brings it directly between the sun and the Earth. If the moon is close enough to the Earth when that happens, we get a total solar eclipse. If the moon is too far away, we get an annular eclipse. A ring of the sun still appears around the moon. And astronomers will agree it is a coincidence that our moon and our sun look nearly the same size in the sky. But in hundreds of millions of years, this will no longer be the case, as the moon is drifting away from the Earth about 4 centimeters every year. In a future video, I'll demonstrate how we can tell that the sun and the moon are not actually the same size and distance from the Earth.
Another one of those strange coincidences, much like this whole the moon is tidally locked to Earth because it rotates in exactly the same time as it takes to orbit the Earth. Okay.
I will forgive Daryl for thinking tidal locking is a coincidence. The source he's using for the explanation is worded poorly. Let's move on, jumping ahead to 6 minutes.
Travel 238,000 miles away from Earth through the vacuum of space, landed on the moon, but we can take pictures. We now have the technology on Earth to zoom in and show the lunar sites, and we have them mapped out. So
now, isn't that what flat earthers have been asking for a long time? Like, why can't we have telescopes, or why can't we have telescopes and cameras that can see the landing sites on the moon? And now we have this technology, and they still refuse to accept it because you can't satisfy a flat earther.
The Apollo 11 lunar site is seen here. All right, from my angle, it's a little bit on the left. Okay, Apollo 11. That's where they tell us that the Apollo 11.
I don't know what his perspective on this photo is. This is not a little bit to the left. This is a little bit to the right. Going on.
11 lunar site took place. Okay, so that's tidal locking. We only see this one side, and on this one side is the Apollo 11. Still with me? Good. All right, now on NASA.gov, I go there, I type in Apollo 11, and we have this picture: Earth rising over the moon's horizon.
Okay. D-Marble has gotten to his biggest point of contention. He's about to be constructing his straw man. I want you to remember where the moon landing Apollo 11 occurred. Okay, right here. This is 0 degrees of latitude. This is 0 degrees of longitude. This is the Apollo 11 landing site.
Apollo 11 lunar site took place. Okay, so that's the Earthrise. This is Apollo 11 Earthrise picture taken from the moon of the Earth on the moon's horizon. Right now, here's where I have a question. If we only see one side of the moon because it's tidally locked to the Earth,
that's okay.
And the Apollo 11 pictures are from the location specified by NASA.
Okay. Did you hear that? If the Apollo 11 pictures are from the location specified by NASA.
On the front, on the side, facing towards the Earth.
On the front, on the side, facing toward Earth. We're going to deal with this detail in a second.
Then why do the pictures from the Apollo 11 mission show Earth so low on the horizon?
Perfectly good question. If this photo were taken from the Apollo 11 landing site, where does NASA say this photo was taken from? Let's ask NASA. Earth rising over the moon's horizon. This URL will be in the description below. This view of Earth rising over the moon's horizon was taken from the Apollo 11 spacecraft. So far, so good. The lunar terrain pictured is in the area of Smith's Sea on the near side. Coordinates of the center of the terrain are 85 degrees east longitude and 3 degrees north latitude. How can we find this location on the moon? This URL will be in the description below. This is a map of the moon's surface. This is 0 degrees of longitude, and this line, this heavy line, is 0 degrees of latitude. Here is the Mare Tranquillitatis, the Sea of Tranquility. 25, 24, 23 degrees east latitude. Around this crater, in the vicinity of this crater, is where Apollo 11 landed. Where was the photo taken? The area of Smith's Sea at 85 degrees east longitude. 85 degrees east longitude, Smith's Sea. That puts them out over here, right up in this area. And sure enough, the Earth looks to be around 3 to 5 degrees above the horizon. So now let's go back to Daryl, jumping up to 8:45. Now D-Marble has found a photo taken from the surface of the moon right next to the lunar lander, aiming up to include the Earth, but he has problems with this as well.
We're going to have rebuttals. But NASA took a picture of the Earth at that angle. Okay, let's go with that. Let's say that this is the lunar module taking a picture of the Earth in the distance from approximately that angle, that 90-degree angle where it's kind of really high in the sky, not so much low on the horizon. Okay, and this is the lunar module, right? This piece of
He's going to spend the next 4 minutes or so criticizing the construction of the lunar lander. I'm not going to bother broadcasting his comments. I have nothing to say on the matter. This is just argument from complete ignorance and incredulity. Let's jump ahead to 1340.
in the background. So let's take a look at this. What I did, I decided to make some adjustments to the picture.
Daryl's going to do the standard flat earther photo manipulation. He's going to adjust the image's levels. He doesn't know what he's doing, so why should we trust him to come to a reasonable conclusion about the result? Around 14 minutes and 50 seconds, he will get his desired result. The artifacts from the JPEG compression become visible around the Earth. Never mind that they're also visible around the lunar lander itself, but he never suggests that it was copied and pasted into the photo. Let's skip ahead now to around 1540. Oh, he's going to do the same thing with the Earthrise photo.
I got on my MacBook Air, just open a picture and then just making some adjustments. So let me see, adjust.
Just opening the picture and making some adjustments. He doesn't know what he's doing.
And once again, you got these little squares popping up around the Earth.
He's about to betray his own ignorance and laziness.
Is that what happens in normal pictures? I mean, somebody let me know. I'm sure it's going to be.
I'm sure he has plenty of his own pictures that he could perform the same rigorous analysis of, but instead he's going to poo-poo the whole possibility that this happens in normal pictures. The initial premise for D-Marble to doubt the veracity of the Earthrise photo is based on his false assumption that the photo was taken from the Apollo 11 landing site. His second premise is that when he adjusts the layers of the image, a JPEG file, not the raw image data, but a JPEG file, he's able to get a pixelation effect around the Earth. His initial premise is a straw man, and he admits that his second premise might not be admissible, as the same artifacts might be found in normal pictures. Many flat earthers claim to understand the globe and heliocentric models, which is why they claim to be able to debunk them. But as D-Marble has shown us, he either doesn't understand them, or he has to present a false version of them in order to debunk them. So next time, flat earthers, If you're going to try to debunk the globe and heliocentric models, argue against the real models. Don't set up a straw man, because I'll knock it down faster than you can. This is Jeff, realistically speaking.